All right, so this Knife Thoughts video is going to be about a warranty experience with this knife. And this knife is the Civivi Wyvern. If you're not familiar with Civivi, it is the more budget-friendly brand made by We Knives, and it's a company. I have a couple knives made by this company, both on the We Knives brand, this knife from Civivi, and then a knife that was made for Mass Drop. And I really like this knife. I do have a video on it as the knife itself already, so you can check that out. But I had a little issue with this, and I actually made a video that I sent to the We Knives support email address, and I'm going to go ahead and just cut that in here. So the knife, I got this on November 28th, 2020, when you guys were doing a sale. And I really like it, but I've noticed that the tent is sometimes real weird, where it will allow the blade to be pulled up so that you can catch your finger on that tip before it actually breaks the detent. And I'll pull it out of my pocket and it'll be like that. So I just wanted to see if that was something that you could fix. You can see that there. Seems like the detent ball isn't like sitting in the detent hole correctly or something. I mean, it does flip fine and everything, but I just wanted to reach out and see if that was something that you could fix, because I don't like the idea of possibly, catching on that tip. So you can see that I sent them that video showing that the detent on this was a little loose in the closed position, and a little bit more than I was comfortable with. Now, one thing is that detents do tend to get a little looser through a lot of use. Like, for example, I've had this knife for a long time. I've used it a lot, flipped it open, closed a lot, and it does have a little bit of that. So you can see that it does move a little in there, but you can see here that it doesn't come anywhere close to the tip being above the frame of the knife. Whereas on the Wyvern here, it was coming pretty close and even above the frame of the handle. So I wanted to, see if that was something that they could do anything about. And in particular, that is an issue that you see on slip joints a lot. So I don't have a good example of it because none of these knives have it, but I'm about to make a video on a couple slip joints, and a lot of times a slip joint will have a tip that's pretty close to sticking up above the handle. So it's something that I was familiar with, and a little bit of, I guess, what you might call, something I'm overly sensitive about. But I do think it was an issue worth, reaching out about on the Wyvern here, and they actually replied really quickly. So I sent that initial email on February 22nd of 2021 here, and on the 23rd, so the next day, they replied that they were forwarding my video to their engineer to see, what they thought needed to be done, or if they could help with it. The next day, the 24th of February, they replied, and the first part of the email was, they said, "Sorry to keep you waiting." I've dealt with a lot of different warranties of knife companies and service, departments of knife companies, and I have some videos on that. It's not always the best experience. Sometimes it's hard to get an email back. Sometimes they're really helpful, but I thought it was kind of funny that they said, "Sorry to keep you waiting," after only a day of not replying. So that was good in itself, just that, they were willing to reply so quickly and apologize for such a short amount of time between the two emails. But they did say that their engineer said to send it to their U.S. service center. So that's one thing I wanted to mention about this. This is a knife made in China. I don't actually even know if it says it on it, but it is made in China, as are all Civivi and We knives. And there's, this is something that I don't get into a whole lot, but I like knives made in China. I like Rough Rider knives. I like these knives. I have a Kaiser knife that I like. And I think that there's a little bit of a dark side to the negativity towards overseas made, and really in particular Chinese made knives in the knife community. The Chinese government is certainly doing awful things. all governments at times do awful things. To deny that is just to deny reality. The reality of it is that all governments have, and I mean, I like to say only Sith deal in absolutes is a quote from one of the Star Wars movies. It's kind of oxymoronic because it is an absolute, but certainly maybe there's been a government that was perfect, but I highly doubt it. And certainly the Chinese government is worse than many governments. But people, kind of equate that with, equate getting and supporting Chinese made knives with supporting the Chinese government and the things that they do. And I just don't agree with that. And I think that it comes from a place, that is something that's a little bit ugly. And I don't like to see that. And my experience with this service has been, a good example of that. The people who make these knives are, as far as I know, not a part of the Chinese government. They're just people who were born there, right? And they have to live in that government. People forget that you don't get to, you're born and then you live where you live. And it's really hard to move sometimes, right? And change where you live just because your government is doing bad things. So they're just people, and they are, making nice knives, good tools for good prices. And so I don't like to see the kind of dark side and negativity towards Chinese made knives, especially because of experiences like this. So on 224, they said that the engineer said to send it to the U.S. Service Center. And so that was my point there, was that another part of the negativity towards Chinese knives is a lot of times people say, well, what if you have an issue with it? How are you going to get warranty service? Well, first of all, let's be honest, not all U.S. knife companies have the best service. Not all of them have the best warranties. I have had bad experiences before. I've had lots of good experiences too, but I just don't think that even in its beginning is a great argument. Beyond that, a lot of these, Chinese knife companies, not all of them, but some of them are now having U.S. service centers. So for example, Civivi and has a place that you can send the knife in the U.S. Where they actually can service the knife. And I believe others do also. I think Kaiser has one. I haven't used it, but it's something that they're starting to do. And then on 225, so February 25th, I sent the knife. I just sent it, normal standard shipping, I think. And they notified the service, so the person who does the service. Their name's Terrell, and to be honest, I'm not exactly sure, what gender that name is. But it doesn't really matter either way. When I was, writing down my thoughts for this video, I didn't want to accidentally say the wrong gender, so I'll just say Terrell. They notified the servicer, Terrell, and Terrell emailed me that same day. So I actually, I sent it and let them know that I sent it on 225. Got an email from the service, the support people on 225. And then also from the servicer, Terrell, on 225, saying that the factory was sending parts and, because the factory is in China, it could be something like 2 weeks or so before they get those parts. And that was fine with me. I mean, I've had much longer waits, and probably some people are saying, I'm just looking at a knife, you're holding it in your hands. I've had longer waits for U.S. service, on knives. So that wasn't a huge deal to me. But then on 3/11, so what is that? That's only 14 days, so 2 weeks later, because February 28 days. Yeah, so about exactly 14 days later, Terrell emailed me saying that my knife was fixed and already on its way back to me, and that Terrell fixed it without having to use the parts. They said that they adjusted the lock bar a little bit, and I think something about the pivot too. But they actually serviced it. So they didn't just, replace it or just replace the lock bar or something like that. They actually took the time to, look at the knife and fix what was wrong with it. And so I thought that also was pretty cool. I think sometimes, companies, especially a bigger company, might just say, we'll throw a new lock bar in it, And I've had knives come back from some companies that they, serviced it and nothing was different, right? It was the same. So I thought that was kind of cool. On 3/16, so about 5 days later, I got it back, and I was super happy with how well it was fixed. So you saw the video earlier that I had made to send to Civivi knives about how much play there was in this, and it was quite a bit, and there is none now. I'm talking like none at all. It is amazing. I'm surprised that it is the same, parts. Certainly I understand that they can adjust the tension of this lock bar and it will, adjust that, but there is no play whatsoever. I mean, when this detent breaks, it breaks. And so I was really, really happy with how they fixed this. I was happy with the whole process. Again, I mean, as you can see from me kind of running through it, they've communicated very, very well. They were always very pleasant in the communication. Now, I will say that some of it, had a little bit of a strange, I guess, voice to it, and that is probably because some of the people who were sending the emails, English isn't their first language. But again, that's something where I see sometimes criticism for that in the knife community, like emails that might sound a little bit weird. And I just am not on board with that. I don't speak any Mandarin or Cantonese or any of the languages spoken in China. So I have no criticism for someone who's able to send an email that is completely understandable just because it sounds a little bit off. The voice or how they phrase things sounds a little bit off. So I'm not on board with that criticism, and certainly I could feel the wanting to help, the willingness to help in their emails, even if sometimes they were worded a little strangely. And I really appreciate that. The fact that they wanted to make sure that this knife was good, that I was happy with it, and that it was fixed to my liking, especially because this is not the most expensive knife out there. I got it on a Black Friday deal, and I think it was something like $45 or something. Normally, I think they're about $50. But not the most expensive knife. I mean, certainly there are less expensive knives, but still not ultra expensive, and they wanted to help with it. So just a really good experience, and I wanted to make this video. I know that it's getting a little long, but it's something that I think about a lot, especially with that kind of, sometimes knife companies from China get a lot of criticism on these types of things. And I was really happy with this experience. Like I said, it is 100% fixed for the issue that I sent it in for. There is no blade play whatsoever, and it flips beautifully, drop closed. I can still use the, the opening hole if necessary. It has no blade play side to side, even when unlocked, which is really great. No blade play forward and back. It locks up well at about maybe 25 or 30%, and just, completely fixed. So really happy with my warranty experience with Civivi and or WE knives. And I guess just, don't judge a warranty, don't judge a company until you've dealt with the company directly. Especially don't do so just because of the place where they're located. So I hope this video is helpful if you are thinking about sending a knife that was made by Civivi or WE. Certainly from my experience, feel confident doing so. As always, if you enjoyed this video, like it. You can subscribe to my channel and hit the bell so you get notified when I post new videos. I also have my website, knifethoughts.com, where I post articles on knives like this and knife related topics. And I also have, I've been putting knives up for sale on there also, as well as some, kind of swag type stuff for Knife Thoughts. And then I'm on Instagram and Facebook at Knife Thoughts also. And last but not least, as always, don't forget to go out and do good.